Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Crossover. Starring Josh Johnson and Chris McGill. Featuring Christina Thorson. And of course, you, the Instagram live chat. Now, sit back and enjoy this week's edition of The Crossover. Powered by Card Ladder.
What's up, Pinkertons? What's up, Corey? What's going on, Josh? There you are.
Dude, I'm getting some serious 2020 vibes right now. We got the old school background, and we got
Right?
and we got all the bubble teams in the Final Four back in the Final Four.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The Celtics will get 4 for 4.
And they should do it. They're home. Like, they
Isn't that
should
crazy?
close this thing out.
I was like, surely the fourth. No, it was the Celtics. It's 4 for 4, right? It'll be 4 for 4.
Wow. Yeah, I don't remember who it was in the East, but that's amazing if that's true.
It was the Heat and the Celtics. I'm pretty sure, right?
That sounds right. Or was it the Rat? I don't know. I could look really quick here.
Because it was definitely the Heat, Lakers, and Nuggets. I'm pretty sure the fourth was the Celtics.
Yeah, it was definitely those three. Yeah. Miami, Boston was the Eastern Conference.
So maybe it wasn't a fluke.
Well, we'll see. We will see. The favorites will definitely be Denver, Boston. So it would be amazing for both of those. If Miami and LA get back, I mean,
I don't know about that. I don't think Denver and Boston should be heavily favored, but
they should. But dude, this is where I want to tip my hat to the Lakers and to LeBron, who was as good as anybody has played all year tonight. The Lakers were big underdogs for 2 straight series, and they won without even needing a Game 7. That's amazing. That's like some history lining up, all-time destiny shit when you look at it. So I just want to give the Lakers their credit right now that what they did was nothing short of amazing, man. And taking out the defending champs in 6, and they made them look impotent as an offense tonight.
Yep.
It's very impressive.
I think they broke Jordan Poole's brain tonight.
Man, I'm telling you, it's been something. I've never seen anything like this in all my years of watching basketball. It's really something special, man. So
Well, the corgi failed.
yeah, the corgi. But how do we? Can I just ask? How do we trust the corgi? How do we know? Who was fact checking the corgi? That's what I want.
Yeah. Corgi curses over. Well, congrats to the Nuggets as well. I know you're excited about that. Jokic is
Oh yeah, nervous
really
is a better word.
It's gonna be good. I mean, as mad as I was about the Suns, this game helps a lot because I fucking hate the Warriors, and I'm so glad they're out.
They're out, and they had all their guys. They had home court as a 6 seed, which I don't know how you luck into that, and they still couldn't get it done. That's rough, man. I know players are taking heat in the media today for some of the losses that they've had, and I think the Warriors deserve a lot of heat, and I think it starts at the top with Curry. I think they need a lot of heat for what happened in this series.
Klay Thompson, 3 of 19. Is that bad?
3 of 19?
He's gonna be doing this. He's gonna be doing this all summer. He's just gonna be holding up his little fingers. I posted my story. He's gonna be talking to the bartender in Cancun like, 4, bro, give me 4.
Oh my goodness! Wow. All right. Well, we have a 1-hour special tonight, and thank you everybody for tuning in. I know it's been a little while since we last did a show. I haven't looked at the Western Conference Finals schedule yet. Tuesday and Thursday. Okay.
I believe
so. We should be safe for next week as well. So do you have any? I don't have any mail days on me. Do you have any mail days? Let's go.
You're not gonna explain to the people that you're back. The background, nobody else noticed but me. Look at this background. It's like freaking vintage right here. It's like old school.
Yeah, well, Christina put up this poster real quick as we are inhabiting our old office again for a few nights here. So
You got to
yeah, it's the
notice those ceiling tiles, bro. I know a ceiling tile when I see one.
yeah.
I
Fortunately,
know what those. I know what those Illinois vibes are like, man.
yeah, no, there's good vibes here. It's nice being back in this setting. It's different. It's very different.
It's more humble. Dallas is kind of pretentious. This is more
It
humble.
is. It is. Dude. Not wrong.
You guys in your high rise, your freaking high rise, yeah.
Too high to even dare go on the balcony.
Best line ever was last night. All right, I got 2 mail days. You good?
Let's go.
All right, yeah.
Let's go.
First is the Larry Superfractor.
Oh yeah.
This thing is incredible. These are so nice, dude.
Yeah, they are.
They the optic vinyls are basically the same. Like they kept it the same, so it's the same kind of feel. So if you like the optic vinyls, you'll definitely like these ones.
Yeah, for sure.
And then this one I've owned this exact card before, this serial and everything, so I got it back. PSA 10 Pop 2 07 Finest Gold.
Yeah, that literally the same exact card.
Yep. And then got it back much cheaper than what I sold it for.
Well, that's a win.
That's a
You
win.
know what I love about the Topps Chrome Superfractors in particular? There's something about the finish they use or the material, the paper stock. There's something about it that makes it like photograph or scan very. I've got a few Topps Chrome Superfractors of Le'Veon Bell, and they're beautiful in hand, but like the scans that I took of them and the pictures I take of them are even nicer. Like it's crazy how nice those capture when you take a picture or a scan of them.
Isn't it nice to have, like, for example, the Le'Veon Bell PC where you can get Topps Chrome Superfractors where you couldn't get it with any of your other players?
It is cool. Yeah, no, it's nice having a player from that era. And like I'm still learning about that era. Like I saw Brett made a Stacking Slabs. Brett made a post about he got a 2013 Spectra Peyton Manning, and he was explaining that's the first year of Spectra. I didn't know that. I didn't, and that's also Le'Veon Bell's rookie year. So like I've got a few Le'Veon Spectras from 2013. I didn't even know that was the first year Spectra as well. So like it's cool to learn more about that window, like 2012 to 2015-ish time period. Because like if I didn't collect Le'Veon Bell, I wouldn't know anything about that era. So it's not.
Especially with football having the Topps Chrome license up until 2015, so you kind of get a little bit of a difference there that you wouldn't get with basketball.
How do you like the fact that I guess 2015 had rookies from Topps Chrome, from Topps, and from Panini for Gurley?
It makes for an interesting chase. There's a lot of cards. It's kind of like it reminds me of like 2003 rookie year for LeBron. He's just like, there's so many products. You've got because they just have Topps, Upper Deck, Finest, Chrome. There's just so much, and then obviously even with Gurley, there's even more with like Panini. It's crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It is nice though having all the options. Okay. All right. Well, nice mail days. Do we have any card ladder news or updates that we should give? No?
There's 2 things, both small and on my laptop, but on the player indexes screen, you can now filter by sport.
Nice.
So if you're doing research on players and like sorting by monthly change or anything like that, you can filter down by sport, which would have come in handy when we were doing podcasts a lot, when we were trying to like research different sports, who's moved the most.
Right.
That would have been nice.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that's a cool feature though. So if you're ever just trying to say, hey, like how are the NBA playoff performers indexes doing, you can just quickly filter. Yeah, it's nice.
And then we added the Magic the Gathering index.
Nice. Yeah. 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 Our
Snuck that one in.
Yeah. And our TCG stuff is growing thanks to the 2 researchers who are taking care of that for us. So
Well, I was looking at the ladder. I usually check the ladder to see what gets added every day. And I was like, shit, we got a lot of Magic. I think it's time. We got enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I definitely live in a sports card bubble, but dude, from all indications, whether I'm looking at like gem rate reports or just kind of talking to people, like Pokemon and other card games are doing really well. Not just in terms of how much they're being graded, but just the excitement for their markets are high right now.
Yep. I think Magic was up 7% in the last month.
That's really good.
So
Yeah, that's really good considering like I was looking at basketball and ultra modern indexes yesterday, and they're down over the last month only 8% and 9% apiece, which is a lot.
oh my God.
The bleeding continues.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, let's get to some questions because I had a ton of them, and I'm not quite as organized as usual tonight. I didn't put them all into a Word file. I'm just going to have to kind of access them one by one. But I've got a few right away queued up here. And like, we're just going to get into it. We're just going to start from this because this is a topic that I think we've missed over the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yep.
So this comes from Ben Cross Country Runner 1, who says, let's discuss the hypocrisy of influential voices who are saying, do not be critical, do not be negative, when the biggest auction houses and many influencers could have shady pasts or might still be doing shady things.
Dude, whenever someone tells me not to be critical, first of all, I'm like immediately questioning that person.
Right.
And then second of all, it makes me be more critical of them, like immediately.
Yep.
Is there something specific you think that he's hitting on? Like the trimming stuff, maybe?
Well, yeah, and we have some questions on that we'll get to. I think there's a real, like, multitude of points of view that just are never going to get on the same page with each other in this hobby. So I think that there's one group of people who treat the hobby as a hobby, and they have other jobs that they do. And within that group of people, you have like two factions. You have one faction that's like, hey, I want to enjoy this hobby. I want to, like, not come into it and see drama or see gossip or see things that are going to stress me out or piss me off. I just want my experience in the hobby to be positive. I want to have fun. I want to hang out with my friends. Let's not make this a miserable experience. Like, that's a group of people. That's how they feel. And, one of the ways they express it is just by getting upset at people who, are having negative things to say or say things that doesn't resonate with what they want their hobby experience to be. But there's another group of people who are in the hobby, who treat it as a hobby, who look at it the complete opposite. They're like, this is my hobby. If people are messing with it, if people are committing fraud, if people are running scams, or if people are just doing questionable ethical things, or if people are trying to rip people off, they're trying to get away with, stuff that takes advantage of other people. These are bad apples. They have to be identified so that everybody can protect themselves from coming into encounters with these people. We have to call out and name them and name their activities so that people can't be ignorant of what they're doing, and so that we can all protect ourselves and act more intelligently and act more safely, and so that we actually protect the integrity of the hobby so we can enjoy it for the long haul. And we also, in that group, also will say we have to be honest about the state of the market. Mm-hmm. We have to be honest about waning enthusiasm for cards that's happening right now. We have to be honest about the fact that a lot of the people who just kind of came in and made money or maybe lost money and then they left and now it's just us. We have to accept that. We have to accept the fact that cards have lost 50, 60, 70, 80% of their value. We have to accept it. We have to talk about it realistically. We have to embrace it. So, like, those are two different factions, Josh, within the group of people who treat the hobby as a hobby. And that's leaving aside people who work in the space, just the hobbyists, which you and I were up until a few years ago. So what do you think about that? Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the overall thing that the first group that you mentioned is trying to push is that the good news is going to be the thing that drives up the prices. Like, the feeling is that the only way for us to have a growth in the prices and the values and people coming in is if it's only positive. So if we have any negative, that's going to hinder our future, ability to drive up the market. And I actually think that that's the wrong way to go about it. I think it's the other way. I think the more realistic you are with what your market is, the more I think balanced it is. I think you're going to be much better off long term. And it goes back to the same thing over and over. You want to bring in people organically where they're going to stay. If you bring them in on this false hope that it's always up and right and everything's always good news, and then they come in and get burned, they're going to be fucking pissed and they're going to leave. If you tell them the truth up front, hey, there's this that's bad, there's this that's good, we're fighting against this all the time. It's not just record highs on ESPN every day. There's also, a down going right now. Then when they come in, they have that expectation already set in, and they'll be more realistic with, their ability to stay and want to stay through the right reasons, which is, they're having fun or they're collecting for the right reasons. So we're just going to beat this drum until we're dead. So we'll just keep doing it.
Dude, like, what more evidence should the community need to believe that that's the right answer than what we're going through right now? We are suffering through the fallout of a bubble that was pumped up by uncontained excitement and by too much positivity. Can I put that?
Mm-hmm.
We're suffering from the fallout. And I know it's not only that. There are macroeconomic conditions impacting that. And, there's also just natural ebbs and flows. There's market cycles. But a factor as well is that we got way too excited. Things started 5, 6, 10xing in value. And that is that we are now paying for that today. And for those of us, like, I implore people who just want to keep collecting, just who aren't in this to see if they can make a quick profit off of one thing and then hop to the next. If that's a person's approach, nothing I'm saying is going to resonate with them. But for those of us who want to just keep collecting, month after month, year after year, and just not get completely burned, I think we have a great piece of evidence over the last few years that says it's better to just have incremental growth that's sustainable than it is to have parabolic growth and then pay the price for it later. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it seemed like we got more upset when it was 10xing, over the span of 3 months, just because we knew that that's not going to sustain. It's just, and then as it goes up that quickly, you just get more and more swell of this, like, positivity of these articles coming out, and this is a new high. And now that the market's going down the way it is, like, I'm starting to think how I want to defend the hobby, that I still believe in its long-term value and its long-term, quote-unquote investment. Because now that it's going down, it's like, now I want to think more balance of, okay, why did I get into this in the first place? Why do I actually still believe it's a good use of my money? And all the same principles that were pushed and pumped when it was going 10x up, they still apply. Some of those reasons are still there. It just was in such a short amount of time. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And it attracts people to come into the hobby who we probably don't want, because they just see a quickly shooting up rockets, and they want it, and they try to, they jump out of their window and they try to grab on to one of the fins of the rocket to catch a ride up before, but they let go before the rocket leaves our atmosphere and eventually disintegrates. If our space becomes a magnet for people who see it as a get-rich-quick vehicle, that's not going to serve any of our interests well, and it's going to make it in the long term, and it's going to make it hard for us to collect in the short term. So Yeah, it's tricky. Uh, there are some finer distinctions that can be made as well. Like there are some people out there, I think a small number, but there are some people who just want to see the hobby burn, and they use they they use the shroud of
Sure.
being, concerned community members. They blanket themselves in that, but really they're using an angle to attack and just see people who still collect cards suffer. There's definitely a bit of those people, and there's not a lot of them. There's a few, and they are, if we want to make the fine distinctions, like there are definitely lots of good people who just care about the well-being of the hobby, but there's a few who are just interested in, seeing people who enjoy the hobby have a less enjoyable time. There is some of that. So I don't want to pretend like that those people don't exist, because I've seen a few comments to that effect. It is true. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. I mean, when we're talking about like specific people calling everybody haters, I think we know the difference between them just saying that to try to get the heat off them versus, oh, this person's like very unreasonable. This is an actual hater.
Yeah. And then on the positive side, you have realistic positive people who want the hobby to be self-regulating and who want the bad actors pushed out, but still prefer on balance to see the glass as half full.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have just sycophants who want to, kiss the butt of the most powerful person in the room in the hobby, and who just want to paint an unrealistic picture of perfection and, of never-ending success and happiness and puppy dogs and flowers and blue skies. And that is one of the most offensive affronts to people, because it's denying reality. Okay. That's what I think that resonates with you quite a bit as well.
Of course. I mean, every time I see a post about some new technology in my tech world, it's like, this thing's amazing, it's going to change the world, it's Internet 4.0. That's when I'm immediately like, well, now I hate this thing because you're lying. The new internet, if it was released a month ago, you don't know that. Please stop.
Yes. Yeah, that takes me back, since we're on a little bit of a nostalgic kick here. I don't know if 3 years is long enough to be nostalgic, but since I'm feeling a little nostalgic, I think it was from this very seat that we tarred and feathered crypto dick butts, shit beasts, and the metaverse as a whole. So,
yep.
Top Shot, yeah. Top Shot, yeah. And that comes to mind because that checks the boxes you were talking about, of something that's just being marketed to us as this unassailable great thing, and we're just spare us, please. Don't, you don't have to do this.
Those people have diverted our attention from NFTs to the metaverse. Metaverse wasn't long. It was only a month. And
Right.
Now it's GPT or AI. So it's that's the other thing I just can't get on board with. If you're just keep hopping from one thing to the next, you never actually stick with it. You never believe in it. So why would I believe the next thing? It's AI is now the new internet. I thought metaverse was the new internet. I thought NFTs were the new security internet or whatever. It keeps changing. Which is it?
That's a great question.
Someone told me today that the new Google AI is much better than ChatGPT. So it was a week where ChatGPT was king, but all of a sudden there's a better one already?
It's just amazing. It's just
I've seen reels where they say that they can't control it, and Microsoft's AI, Microsoft engineers have literally said we no longer control this. And I'm great. Thanks for releasing it on humanity, guys. None of us saw iRobot.
Christina has seen every reel ever made.
I asked the Google Bard one. It's called Google Bard. Just don't ask me a follow-up to that name, please.
Bard? B-A-R-D?
Yeah. I said don't ask me a follow-up. I asked it who's going to win the Lakers-Warriors game tonight, and it was the Lakers already won, and they're going to play the Suns in the next round. Who beat the Bucks? I was okay, this is just straight up lying now. There's not even games that are actually happening yet.
this is what's so annoying too, is that like now there's this rush to replicate. So like
Right, exactly.
everybody's got to have their AI department now and pour all this money into it. And
the whole point of the AI thing initially was that it's supposed to be unbiased and it's supposed to like give you the facts and give you the answers right away. It's going to turn into everything else where individual companies have their own versions of it and they're going to lock down their own pieces of data. It's going to push you advertisements for their stuff. It's going to turn into the same stuff as everything else.
yeah, and the most deceptive or misleading part of the advertisements that I've seen for quote unquote artificial intelligence like ChatGPT is that it removes the need for expertise in order to perform certain professional functions. Like you don't need to know the law in order to use ChatGPT for legal purposes, or you don't need to know how to code to use ChatGPT to help you code. I can speak to the law part of it. I've seen people, supposedly use ChatGPT for legal purposes. You still need an enormous amount of legal knowledge, and you need the ability to know how to fact check the results that you find for ChatGPT to have any utility for you in a legal sense. Like, yes, you can direct it to spit out answers regarding like rules of a particular court that you might find yourself in, or help you get citations for case law in some instances. But A, you don't know if it's all solid information that it's spitting out. You need to know how to fact check it yourself.
Right.
And B, if you don't know what directions to give it in the first place, it's not going to help you at all. And in fact, it could put you in a worse position. So you still need the expertise and the know-how and the experience. But I can see like at the margin, it can make some things more efficient. Like I think fancy Google is a good phrase for it.
It's going to end up turning into a tool where kids cheat on their high school papers.
Right.
It already is. Turnitin.com already like evaluates if they think AI was used for your essay.
Yep. So there's already tools that like are, like analyzing if it's been used with it. That's incredible. Like, wow. It's now a fancy plagiarism tool. Good job.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let's. Yeah. We need to keep it more positive about ChatGPT.
No.
Negative.
All right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. AI is king. I'm just really excited about AI.
Christina's worried about the AI takeover. Yeah, she wants to be on record as saying nice things about this machine.
we need to be bowing down to our AI overlords already.
I'm pro Terminator and robots. Please don't kill me. Thank you.
Look at Stiff Arm Wax says, I agree with Jordan Fat Snacks. For the record, I love my future robot overlords.
I think future robot overlords is the first one you need to write down.
Let's write that down. Okay, I have lots more questions to get to here.
Get to the meaty ones. It's been 2 weeks. We've got a lot of meat built.
I know. Let's just go straight for the meat. Okay, so this comes from. Let's go this one. All right, this comes from Northwood's Card Collector. Okay, this is all right. He's coming hot. Coming in hot. He says, "How big of an idiot do you have to be to create a video detailing how to trim cards? Are you also equal of an idiot or a legendary idiot to respond and to comment positively on such a post? Seriously, something like this should not be swept under the rug." That's from Northwood's Card Collector. What do you think about that?
Isn't this like admitting to fraud, or am I not smart enough to understand law?
Well, it's definitely admitting to a part of fraud. The deception element of fraud. Like, if a guy trims a card, sends it into a grading company hoping to bypass detection is bypassed, and then they sell that trimmed card without disclosing the alteration that was made, and then there's a material loss incurred by the person who buys it, then I think you got all the elements for a real cause of action. So yeah, I mean, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
This is pretty simple for me. You know, now that I know what this gentleman's been doing, and it seems like maybe there's another gentleman involved. We're talking about Evan Mathis, and I'm not sure if there's anyone else involved, but it's a hard no for me on dealing with those people, buying cards from them, allowing them to get any airspace, you know, in my vicinity in terms of like having a hobby opinion. Completely dead to me. You know, I'm just gonna ignore it. And I think it's important for us to bring it up, you know, if this is happening. The thing that hurts those guys the most is just like not giving them your money, not doing business with them, getting them out.
Yeah. Yep. And the one good thing that comes from it is that they, like Evan Mathis, for example, is putting onto the radar of plenty of people who, like, it might not have been firmly on their radar, that there are trimmed cards out there. And when I listened to his appearance on Sports Cards Nonsense, he kind of like contradicted himself a few times. At one point, he says, "I've never seen a card trimmed," and then at another point, he says, "I'm pretty sure," he says, that he's trimmed cards before, and he certainly admits to trimming the one that he showed on his video. So, my takeaway from that video is that like he confessed more or less to trimming cards. At least if I heard it correctly. That's what it sounded like to me. I ask everybody to go listen to it for themselves if they're interested and make up their own mind. But it sounded to me like then when he started talking about like he's just maximizing the cards, and then he's, you know, if you look at it from a certain way, he's performing a duty for the hobby. He's helping the hobby. He's making these cards better. Well, here's the thing, and I think Mike on Sports Cards Nonsense pointed this out, and everybody points this out, but it bears repeating. If that was truly the case, if trimming cards was making the hobby better, and it was for the betterment of the hobby, then that alteration would be disclosed at the time of sale of those cards. The fact that these cards get trimmed, and then the trimmers don't tell you that they trim the card, they just sell it to you as if it wasn't trimmed, that's all the evidence I need to know that they know that they're doing something wrong and that they are deceiving people, and it's awful. And it's an underbelly of our hobby, but we have to be knowledgeable and be aware of the fact that cards have been trimmed. They've been trimmed for a long time. People are still trimming them to this day, and it just sucks.
It does suck. It's like their best case scenario is like it gets a PSA 10 with the what's it called where it's like MKOC. What's that?
Yeah, like qualifiers.
Qualifier. It's like their best case scenario is that, hey, this is a PSA 10 with the qualifier that I trimmed it to get it to be a PSA 10. Right. It's like, oh yeah, thanks. That reduces the value for collectors by about 5x. It's basically a PSA 2. Like nobody wants the qualifier. They don't want it to be trimmed. So like you saying it's a service is a complete lie. Like you said, if that was the case, people would be paying for PSA 10 with a qualifier of trimmed and being happy to do it, and that's not true.
Absolutely. And the other thing that bears repeating too is like sometimes people might be unsure about why do these guys trim cards? Why do they do it? And the motive, without a doubt, is greed. It's people who are willing to mislead, deceive, and dupe innocent people into thinking they're buying something that they're not, for the simple fact that they get more money off of it if it looks nicer or if it's in a higher graded slab. It's pure greed. And that's why I think so many people have zero tolerance for somebody to even try to turn it into an intellectual discussion about the pros and cons of altering or whatever. It's like we can't even get to that discussion because these cards are being altered strictly to line the pockets of somebody who, rather than earning money in an honest fashion, wants to earn it by deceiving people, misleading people, and potentially harming those people if it ever comes out and it eventually probably will, that a card was altered. So that's the thing that just makes it so repugnant, is that it's just being done out of greed.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate.
There's one other thing I wanted to say. Like an easy reach for us, especially you and me and Christina, would be to say, this is why you collect one of ones, and this is why you don't collect vintage. I don't think that's what we should be doing, because I think the vintage is just so important to our hobby, and for us to just like say, oh, good luck vintage people, this is what you get. I think that's I've seen a couple accounts kind of like, get up against the line of saying something like that, and I think we need to be supporting the vintage guys, because they don't want this either. So like they can't. It's not that they can just like deal with this and be happy because they should have listened to us or some crap. I think it's important that we all as a hobby, stick together on this one. This is not just, and it's not just that they're trimming vintage cards. We've seen alterations to patch swaps and other things like that, modern cards. So I don't think this is like a chance where they can like divide us here. This is like a pretty cut and dry, trimming is bad, and it's a hard stop on that.
Yeah, and let's just not run away from the problem. Let's not let the con artists who do trimming, let's not let them ruin a particular segment of cards and just say, oh, we'll flock over here, because you know what? They'll find ways to run their con over here too. And then if we flock over there, they'll find ways to run their con over there. We just have to take a stand against them while acknowledging that they exist, and thanking the people who do the research to expose what cards are trimmed, even though that can be very painful for people who own or acquire a trimmed card, and to work with the grading companies to the extent that they're involved, because if you can demonstrate evidence of being in possession of a trimmed card, it benefits the grading company if you bring that to their attention as well. And hopefully and ideally, and protect yourself, but the grading companies should work with you to help make it right. So, and I think a lot of grading companies do on one level or another. So it's a systemic, it's a hobby-wide problem, and it's never going to stop me from collecting and enjoying collecting, but it definitely gives me reason to be cautious and patient and careful.
Yep. Did you notice that that when this stuff starts coming out from particular people, all of a sudden they've got new companies popping up that offer you protection against, the screw ups at PSA that, look, we were able to sneak this past PSA. We won't let, we wouldn't be able to sneak past this new company that I got to offer you instead. It always like self-serves back to some other way to make more money. It's disgusting, actually. Like, so if you see those people pumping out new companies to distract you away from whatever else they're trying to, snatch money from, once again, don't put any of your money towards stuff like that. None of your money gets to go to these new marketplaces or grading companies that these guys got running now.
Yeah. Well, I think that applies to Evan Mathis as well. I think he's got a company that he's trying to raise money for right now, and he's using apparently his confessions of card trimming in the Instagram video that he posted as like the grounds for people to for people to support him. It's
crazy.
It is. I want to get this question from Deep Value Investor real quick. He goes, what about accounts that remove indentations or that improve corners or remove surface scratches? Look, without getting into particulars, because without, we have other topics we want to talk about here, but just use this as a litmus test, as like a general first question that you would ask, a threshold question. Is the technique being applied to the card to improve its condition, whether it's removing indentations, improving corners, removing surface scratches, whatever? If you do that technique to your card, will you disclose it when you're selling it?
Right.
Because if you will disclose it, that leads to one discussion. If it makes you uncomfortable to disclose it because you think it's impacting the value of your card, then there's probably an issue there.
Yeah.
And that leads to a whole different discussion.
It's like, can I make it another thought on that? Just jumping off that, because I mean, it's so easy to like get bogged down in like, oh, this one's okay, fingerprints are okay, wax. It like, it gets into this really tough situation where the way you put it is just so much simpler. Another way of saying it is like, would you be okay with other people in the hobby watching what you're doing to the card? Yes or no?
Nice. That's good as well.
It's like, if there were 50 representatives in the hobby watching what I'm about to do to this card, and if I was like, yeah, no problem, watch, like I'm gonna remove this hair, I'm just gonna blow the hair off with, or I'm gonna wipe it down, wipe this fingerprint that I just put on it off, like they'd be like, yeah, fine. But if I'm gonna bust out wax and like shine up this corner and like straighten this out, if some people in the room are like, then it's like, all right, maybe that's kind of the litmus test too.
Right. Yep. That sounds about right. Okay. All right. There's a lot more. I mean, we could go on for hours about this topic, but let's move on to some more topics here. Maybe there'll be occasion to revisit in the future. All right. But for now, here's another pretty hot topic of late. This comes from Yaman. He says, what does the failure of entities like Collectible, which was the fractional marketplace, that's currently, it looks like it's winding down and liquidating assets, what does the failure of entities like them and the liquidation of the assets held on their platform, what does that mean for the hobby? And what does this series of events set the precedent for in the future of this hobby?
I mean, I don't really want to like dance on the grave of like I told you so and different types of companies. I don't think that's ever going to be in our best interest as a hobbyist to do that. But I think it just says that collectors have a specific way of doing things, and then if you try to break those norms, like it's going to be tough. It's just like I get the idea of it, of the fractional. It's an interesting idea. It may work for a faction of people, but what happens is when you are leaning into the people that are coming in only when things are going well, and that's your customer base for your business idea, it's going to be tougher than if your customer base is, you're depending on the people who have been here 20 years, the collectors, because those people aren't going to leave. So it was always an uphill battle, to like put that idea into the hobby. I don't think it was a terrible idea. I think it was an interesting try, and it just didn't work out. Yeah,
which is okay. Like lots of ideas don't work out for one reason or another. They Collectible. So I like, first of all, and respect several of the people that I personally know who work there. So I don't like to see them have a struggle or not do well, but I also know that they're all landing on their feet and that they're moving on. So that's great. I love to see that. That's good. I think there's also a lot of transparency relating to Collectible because they were regulated under the SEC, if I'm not mistaken. So there are public filings that they make that then become available to the public. And then there are sharp and critical analysts, especially on Twitter, who are digging through these filings and finding and publicizing information. And I know that, and a lot of it is, to say the least, unflattering. And I know that can be uncomfortable or even downright, painful for people who worked at or supported or still support Collectible or the concept of Collectible. So I get that, but it's also good that we're seeing the ugly side of this. It's good that we have the ability to see the ugly side of it. Like one of the things that was disclosed was that I'm doing this off of memory, so it might not be a perfect recollection, but basically that Collectible at one time had a group of assets that had cost $29 million. It had cost basis $29 million, and today, or in their most recent filing, it's valued at $14 million, creating an impairment of like somewhere in the ballpark of $13 to $15 million or something like that. And that's not unusual. Like there are plenty of cards, as one example. I know they did memorabilia and other stuff too, but there's plenty of cards that have experienced that type of quote unquote impairment over the last year to 2 years. So like it happens, that did happen, but it's good that we're able to see that, just as much as we see companies succeeding and flourishing, when things don't always go well, it's good. It's just good to be realistic about that. It's good to see it. It's good to know it. And I thank the people who call it out and who explain what's going on and how and why it got there. And sometimes it can be a little snarky, and but the substance is there. And if there is a critique to be issued by me, it might be this. And I know it's uncomfortable and there's not a lot of incentive to do it, but it would be great, not just in this case, but in all cases, where like if a company isn't doing so well, or it took a turn for the worst, or something unfortunate happened, like use the same passion and energy that like we have when we start something and we go out and we do these podcast interviews and we're talking to people. Use that same energy to field questions and to help the community understand what's going on when it takes a turn for the worst. So like, still go on podcasts, like talk to people about what's happening, walk them through this, help people understand it. Don't go away. Don't disappear. Even though it's uncomfortable, even though it sucks, don't do that. Come back, still talk to people, still have engagement with people. People are going to be snarky. They're going to dance on your grave. Guess what? We are in an industry that's adjacent to sports. Like, look at what they do to these NBA players when they lose in the playoffs. And, oh, my God, they lost in the second round, and now we're writing a eulogy for this guy's career and explaining what a failure he is and how, like, we get so dramatic. We get so melodramatic about things related to sports. Like, you just have to accept that. That's part of what it is to be in an industry that's adjacent to sports, which is sports collectibles. You have to accept that. You have to deal with it, have thick skin, come out, face the crowd. Dude, if Ben Simmons can have bottles thrown at him and booze, and he still sits on the bench wearing an ugly sweater, like, we can do this too. We can still come out and face the crowd, face the critics, face the snark, face the skeptics, and, shepherd the community through to the next moment.
Well said.
Okay.
What was that? Two things. You talked for a long time, so I got two built.
Sorry.
Yamwax said there was too many startups that were trying to invent problems that didn't exist. I think that's a good way of summarizing some of these companies that came out. It's not a criticism. It's it's kind of it's something that when you're starting a business, don't try to push people into something new necessarily, and try to like fill a need first, and then you can kind of evolve it from there. And then the other one was Bill Simmons was teetering on the edge of thinking Jason Tatum was like a complete and now he's back to like he's a legend within like a 5-minute span of real time, not game time. To your point of like how dramatic we are with the sports takes, like
Right.
Tatum almost got eliminated from the second round. He was 1 of 10 or whatever, and he's almost the worst player in the NBA. Now all of a sudden, they might win, and he's the best, and all's good.
Yeah. Yep. For sure. Okay. Let's move on to another question here. This comes from the story post, and I can't see who sent it, unfortunately, because like I'm looking at it from my phone, and I'm doing it in an unusual way today, but I can still read the question. The question was, or the comment, or the topic was, discuss blowout message forum banning Mind Cycle for posting a YouTube link to content that he made.
I think you're not supposed to post the YouTube links. I got in trouble for that a few years ago. I posted a link to one of my interviews, and they took it down. They didn't ban me. So, like, unless they warned him several times,
Right.
It seemed to me like it was a calculated, like, response to go after and make an example out of him for whatever reason. But I've seen YouTube posts from Sports Card Investor, for example, links on Blowout, and he didn't get banned. So I'm thinking there's some double standard issues here. And that was kind of the real, like, spark of anger from a lot of people. It wasn't that necessarily, we're trying to get around that he might have broken a forum rule. It was like, well, we're getting special treatment on this end, but not over here. And it was a very quick trigger.
Yeah, and if anybody should be getting special treatment, it's Mind Cycle, who's been a contributing member to that forum for as long as I've been reading it, which
Exactly.
Goes back years and years. Like he is a guy who loves the freaking hobby, and he's a guy who will speak out if something's bothering him, and it takes a lot. Like, and I can just tell from the videos I've watched of his and the interactions I've had with him, he's a measured guy. And he's a valuable person to this hobby. And there are others like him who are in the same boat. They've been around a while, they have a lot of knowledge, and they just care. If Blowout's going to give special treatment to anybody, give it to him. Let him, message him and just say, hey, look, we're not trying to do this right now, and here's why, and if you want to, here's a phone number if you want to talk further about it. Like, give you in this hobby, we got to give guys like Mind Cycle the time of day. We have to do it. And if he, let him make up his own mind from there. Like, and for Blowout forums, like, it's a big deal too, because Blowout is an archive going back to the discussions we were having about trimming, and it's an archive of lots of other hobby information as well. And it's important that Blowout is respected, not because like we want to, not for any reason other than it's a valuable archive of information, and it's valuable for people to be able to access it. And like, this is a point that Kyle from Wax Museum has made several times. It's not nearly as easy to archive or to search or to catalog information on social media. And so much of the hobby has moved to Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. And like, that's information that gets revealed, you can just fall through the cracks really quickly. So like, having a backstop like Blowout is important. And, it's for the betterment of everybody's, for betterment of the hobby, that Mind Cycle gets reinstated, damn it, and that he gets respect as a longtime contributor and valuable person in this hobby.
Can I tell you why it pissed me off?
Sure.
It pissed me off because Blowout, to me, is something that I feel stands on the side of the collector. If you were to decide, is this like a political business influencer platform, or is this a platform that's more organic and driven by the people who go out of their way to post and have, help people, guide people through different threads? Like, those people go out of their way. There's people like, remember Super Dan, all the trimming stuff? People spending hours and hours of their time with the sole purpose of how can I improve the hobby? How can I shed light on something? You would think that the Blowout platform would be there to support that persona. And then when it gets down to it, nope, they're going to support the person that has more money, has more political draw, more followers, whatever bullshit. It's like, that platform turned into everything else to me. It turned into every other political influencer bullcrap support. That's what pissed me off. It's like, dude, have some awareness and realize this guy over here is the collector up against, the political nightmare that is the influencer. So that's what pissed me off.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Yeah, I double down on what Josh said. Like, is nothing sacred? Like, can we not have one fucking, like, space that is pro-collector and, like, pro-hobby without all this extra money bullshit and politics? Like, I'm right there with you, Josh. I was disappointed.
Yeah. She's not mad, Chris. Uh-oh.
No, I really wasn't. Like, when I found out, I was just like, okay, there goes another one. Like, I'm disappointed in everyone over there, like, who had who had decision-making capabilities, and that was their decision. And if I see you at National, I will come up to you and tell you how disappointed I am.
Okay, let's take it down a notch.
I'm serious.
All right, we were good there, and then we started ramping ourselves up a bit.
This is like when Chris doesn't put away his laundry. Like, Christina's not mad at him. I mean, she can help, but like, come on.
And trust me, when she sees me in the apartment, she comes over and she yells at me about it.
I wouldn't even yell. Like, I would literally just go up to them and be like, how much did you sell out for?
No, I get the point that you're making.
What was the number? I just want to know what are collectors worth to you? Like, what was your number?
Okay. All right. Because here's the thing that I'm struggling with, Josh. Like, this is an instance where I think you put it really well, and Christina put it really well. Like, It just feels one-sided against the collector. But here's what I'm struggling with. Like, we also love Blowout. It's been a great community for the hobby for a long time. I just want to see Mind Cycle reinstated, his integrity restored, and for us to continue to be able to have confidence in Blowout, because we need the Blowout forums or something like them.
Free Mind Cycle is a potential.
See, I don't want to, like, he's a very, like, I don't want to put all that attention, towards him, because it's not what he wants. He just wants to, like, something was bothering him, and he spoke up about it, and he went up against a very powerful entity, and he got smacked down for it, and it ain't right.
Can I just tell you, though, the irony of all this, and it's not just for this instance, it happens every fucking time. Your company will make more money if you side with the collector as opposed to the goddamn person with more followers. I'm fucking telling you. It's so enticing to just say, this guy's got 100,000 subscribers or followers or whatever. That's the one I need to side with because they're going to bring me more attention or more views or whatever it is. But I'm telling you, you're only going to get 4 comments on your post when you tag that person. You're going to get 20 fucking likes. I bet you Mind Cycle got more comments and likes on these posts, and he's got way less followers. So, the proof's in the pudding. The math is there. Figure it out.
The math is there.
Just pick one. Pick one. I've done it. I've posted to my account before. There's fucking a shared post with a 100,000 follower thing, and they've got 3 comments. How is that possible? Oh, because most of them are fake, and nobody cares.
I know. That's 100% right. All right. Let's do a Drake question. Drake's PC. Our new mainstay.
You can't convince someone that doesn't want to sell. I don't know.
I want to. Is he actually looking for a card, or is he the person? Because someone a couple weeks ago was like, Drake, you need to sell your card. Like, whatever it is that you want, you just need to tell the person what it is you want. And I was like, wait, which side is he on this?
I don't know.
He's probably asking, like, Peyton or Breeze. That's probably his real question.
Yeah. Well, all right, let's get to his question, all right? Here's his question, or his statement and question. Drake says... oh, gosh. All right. Drake says, welcome back. You 3 were missed. I appreciate the ChatGPT advice from last week about how I can speak sense to sellers who refuse to accept the current state of the market. Point number 2 from ChatGPT said, cite data rather than opinions or preferences. So my question is this. Do you think we will ever get to a point where objective data solely dictates values, as it does in other markets? Or will there always be subjectivity that's based on opinions and preferences in the hobby?
Oh, there's always going to be subjectivity. There's too much rarity, scarcity, storytelling, emotional attachment, relationship in sports. There's just too many variables.
Yeah. Yes, there is. And it's also just kind of the nature of cards as well. Like, comps are influential, but comps, especially the rarer the item gets, they aren't a mandate. They aren't a mandate that says, like, you must sell or buy the card at the most recent price.
That's not what CL value is? I've been telling people that, I'm wrong.
Right.
People have done that to me. Like, I'll say something, or I'll be like, I'll just link them the CL value and be like, this is probably, the range. And they'll be like, gotcha. I actually sold it for this. You were wrong. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, obviously. You actually held me to that? They're like, you're only like 75% right. You were wrong. It's like, yep, no, I understand how collectibles work.
Right. Yep. Yeah, Corey in the chat says subjectivity makes it fun. And yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I would.
Yeah. How would you be able to make mega bids in this world?
It would be illegal. It would be outlawed. The mega bid would not be allowed.
You would have like 3 cards in your collection right now.
Yeah. No, I know. Look, you're right. And it's it's
Yeah, man.
just to take Drake's point of view here as well. It's also very frustrating when you're trying to acquire a card and nothing reasonable breaks through. It just that can be very like it obviously is something that is on Drake's mind, and I've got that going on in my own collecting life too, where there's some cards that I want, and I don't even make reasonable offers. I make unreasonable offers, and it just doesn't work, And it's just like you gotta cope, man. You gotta cope. That's all we can do.
Auctions are your friend.
Auctions are definitely your friend.
Can I tell you my biggest pet peeve in my life right now?
What's that?
When Bill Simmons says, I've got a lot of Celtics fans in my life. I've got a lot of Sixers fans in my life. I got a lot of these people in my life. He says it like 10 times a pod now. Come on, Bill. Get a new line.
Oh, playoff basketball Bill is a sight to behold.
When you listen to 6 hours a week of Bill Simmons, you get to know him real well. You pick up on his.
Yeah, that's very, very true. All right, let me do a scroll here. Some more questions that came in from the story. All right, this is a question that came in. How does one deal with the trauma of being the fan of a cursed franchise in sports?
I saw that question and I was like, I don't even know what team he's talking about because we all half the teams have been destroyed in the last couple of days. So which team are we talking about?
Yeah, no, that's so dude. There's not a lot of introspection that goes on within the sports community about what are we actually doing when we cheer for sports. It astonishes me how little introspection happens, where we don't ever just kind of talk about what we're doing. We're just immersed into it. We don't ever step back and say what is this? What are we? If we were an outsider looking in, if we were an alien looking in, what would this look like? And one of the things is that as fan bases, we are never happy with shit. Dude, the Rams won the Super Bowl 15 months ago or less. The Los Angeles Rams won the damn Super Bowl, and almost immediately after, it's just this is over. I was like, dude, and now we think that Rams are a joke, obviously, and they hate their team, and everybody hates their team, and it's awful. It's dude, as a Chicago Bears fan, we haven't won a championship in my lifetime, except for I was very, very young during the 86 or the 85-86 Bears. They won I wasn't even alive for that. They won in February of '86. I wasn't even alive for that. Right? I've never had the Bears win a championship in football. I've seen them go to the Super Bowl once, but I've never even in sports. It's we are sports. I've come to think about sports as a vehicle for voicing displeasure. Okay? Whether it's justified, it's an outlet, dude. It's an outlet. It's an outlet for tribalistic instincts. It's an outlet for self-torture, setting unrealistic expectations, holding people to impossible standards. It's just if we really look at what we do as sport fans and the way we treat athletes, but also the spectacle of how much money these athletes are making and how much money we pay to enjoy the sports and to go to the arenas and stuff. It's a spectacle, dude. It's an absolute spectacle. So that comes back to when I'm talking about this question is dude, no one's ever happy in sports. As sports fans, we have to just get comfortable in the misery. That's the key to being a sports fan.
That should be
Yeah.
a line. Comfortable in the misery.
There's if you think about it logically, there's 30 teams in the NBA, and there's tons of amazing players, and only one team wins, and only one player wins Finals MVP. So it's just not realistic to have your team win every year or to be happy. Really, to your point, at any time, because math would dictate you're pissed 29 out of 30
Right.
instances. It's just you're always basically pissed.
Yeah.
And it's And the other thing, okay, this is something that annoys me about sports media. When the game happens and then the conclusion of the game, the game's over, they basically go immediately to how the team that lost should have done X, Y, Z in order to win. Well, what if, like, no matter what they did, they lost because the other team just beat them? Like, there's nothing you could have done. That doesn't mean you made it unless you just, like, make every single shot, They're like, well, if Durant had just played better and, like, imposed his will better, yeah, well, maybe he just was going to lose to Jokic no matter what he did. How about that? Maybe you're just going to lose. That's just the way it is. There's going to be someone better. Unless you're the 1 out of 30, you're going to lose to somebody.
Yep. 100%. That's so true. But in the flip side of it, also, like, just like something else, just kind of on that note, is like there's a lot of luck involved, a lot of randomness involved in sports as well. So like sometimes, like, we're getting like very upset that like 2 or 3 open 3-pointers didn't go in for role players on one team and did go in for role players on the other team, and it's like, dude, like, I can't have my sense of happiness in life riding on something like that.
They're like when Harden hit that corner 3 to basically win the game. Like, the sports media would have been like trashing the Sixers if he missed that 3, and then now they're trashing the Celtics because he made the 3. And it's like, so they both suck, and it just came down to whether or not Harden was one inch to the left or right.
Well, like, that's like a lifetime mission of mine, is to help create a dialogue around sports that properly understands sample sizes, that takes into consideration, like ring culture is just so silly. Ring culture is a very, very silly thing. It's totally media driven. It's narrative driven. I don't want to go into that whole diatribe.
You want 27 game series.
Yeah, yes. Or I've been reading this book by a well-known basketball stat fellow. I'm trying to blank on the name of it right now, but anyway, he has this idea that his way to determine who the best players are, because like he makes this distinction between the best players versus the best performers. He's like, the most talented player might not have the best performance on a given night. He makes that distinction. He says, if you really want to find out who the best players are, you have to remove the variables of coaching and of quality of teammates, because those things can make a player look good or make a player look bad if they're in the wrong or the right system. So he says, here's how you do it. He calls it like a tournament of some sort, like a legacy tournament or something. And basically the way it works is this. Players continuously rotate teams and coaching staffs. They're always in flux. They're always moving teams. Every player's moving teams, different combinations, different games. And then he says, after you've played about like 20 to 30 games under this system, you're going to start to get an idea of who the better players are and who the worst players are, removing the variables of coaching and teammate quality. And he says, what you do is as the season progresses along, you keep dropping off the worst performing players and you keep the best performing players, and the pool shrinks. The number of teams shrinks and the pool shrinks until eventually you get down to just 2 teams, which will have the best players and the best supporting cast players on each of those teams, and then those teams battle to determine who the best group of players is. That was his idea.
It sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, it's not like, and it doesn't even like, it sounds fun and wonky, but it's like that's not the sport experience that we really want. Like, we have a group of guys that we root for and stuff, but
I mean, the reason that we really love it, and a lot of people love it, is for that one moment when you do, like for tonight, Lakers beat the Warriors. I'm going to enjoy the shit out of this for 24 hours. I'm going to be posting stories about Klay Thompson's fingers,
right.
LeBron's legacy. Yeah. LeBron's clearly better than Curry just because of this one series. That's how this works, right. And so I'm going to flaunt that. Watch some YouTube videos, watch some highlights. It ends up being, you're cashing in the 2 weeks of misery for the one night of enjoyment.
Yeah, that's so true. That's yeah, I mean, that is the upside. Like, that's the upside of sports as well, is like, it's something to be passionate about in a world where, like, a lot of us work jobs that we're not passionate about, have a lot of responsibilities that we're not super excited about. But sports is something we can get excited about, we can get passionate about, we can enjoy it with friends, we have a common interest, we have common enemies. You know, like there's obviously reasons why sports are so popular too. And, you know,
tribal mentality, since we don't go to war constantly with neighboring tribes anymore, it's a representation of that anthropologically speaking.
Yeah, totally. And, you know, when you find something in life that you're passionate about, that's good. It's good to, in passionate things, you're going to have highs, you're going to have lows. You are.
Also with cards, like you're able to reflect on the totality and the averages and the larger sample. Like if I'm looking at my older LeBron cards, I can remember like he wasn't always a near 20 and slow and, you know, terrible at rotating on defense. He used to actually be young and high flying, and so you can kind of like build out this story arc of the player and their total career and not boil it down to like, you know, missing or making one single shot and not defining their whole career.
I love that take. Yeah, card collecting for me, my approach is very much what you just described. It's legacy driven. I'm looking to collect players and enjoy collecting players and in sports and stuff like who it's all with a mind towards legacy. It's all with a mind towards if it's an active player, enjoying the duration of their career. If it's a retired player, being able to, you know, defend collecting them. It's kind of a weird way to put it. To justify collecting them on the basis of what they accomplished. So that's a great point. And like collecting has such a longer term horizon. In fact, lots of people don't even start collecting until the career's over, and then they want to get involved with collecting players. So,
right.
Yeah. All right. Let's see if I got one more question queued up for us here. There was lots of just never a shortage of questions, but I wanted to keep it spicy tonight.
Oh yeah,
I think we did. Here's a quick one that we can touch on. This one says, will the hobby take a huge step forward with DraftKings getting involved? DraftKings has been hosting a few breaks. I Googled this just to kind of like do a little background on it because I hadn't heard much about it. And apparently DraftKings is hosting some breaks of some products. They've been doing that recently.
I mean, we've had like exposure of the gambling and fantasy world, you know, over the last like 3 to 5 years, and I don't know that it really made that much of a boost.
Yep, and you know, I get a little nervous when people who are coming from a gambling background or daily fantasy background get interested in cards because the incentives behind gambling is to profit, you know, and to leverage an informational advantage or an intellectual advantage to beat the house or to beat other people you're competing against. You know, that mindset isn't going to necessarily jive well with the long-term interest of the hobby.
Yeah.
So I get concerned about that. I would be more excited. And this is theoretical. I'm not saying that those people won't become collectors and discover it and love it because, like, it's one of the only ways you can really express your belief in a player's legacy as opposed to just a one-off outcome. But I'd be excited if like people from collecting backgrounds, like people who, you know, let's just take art collecting as an example. Somebody who loves to collect art and who loves sports and realizes, hey, cards are a really nice intersection of this. And hey, look, there's this community and there's so much to learn here, so much to dive into. That's a little bit more. That'd give me a little bit more interested. All right, let me get to this last question here, Josh. This was posted as a story, but I remember who wrote it. It was Mike Pinkerton. Mike, who was one of the first to join the chat, who always has a nice question or two for us. He says, who is the most influential voice in the hobby today? Gary Vee once was, but he is not saying much now.
Well, I think there's a lesson in that, which is we tried to make him the voice of the hobby, and then he just left us high and dry because he doesn't actually give a shit about collecting. He just cares about the money aspect. So we should be learning our lesson, and this time putting that crown on the general collector, quote unquote, the Mind Cycles of the world, the Wax Museum, the Jake Roys, the collectors. These are the people that are here before the bubble. They were here during. They're going to stay after. That needs to be the the voice of the hobby going forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really, really good stuff. I couldn't put it any better. Put the crown on the general collector. Yeah, that's perfect, dude. And anybody who doesn't want to put that crown on the collector, keep an eye on. Not saying they're bad, but keep. All right, because we should all be about putting the crown on the collector. Like that's one thing that's nice about the hobby is that it's largely a selfless thing to be a part of this community. You got to respect what other people are doing. Okay, let's pick a title here for.
Well, you should probably write that last one down.
What's that?
You should probably write that last one down before we start.
I already did.
All right.
And that's a great one. Okay. All right. So here, let's go through some of these. I know a ceiling tile when I see one.
You wrote that down.
The corgi failed.
Yeah.
Future robot overlords. Let's go straight for the meat.
This show is so ridiculous.
The underbelly of the hobby. And then the last one worth reading is put the crown on the collector, that's going to be it. That's it.
It has to be. It's just too good.
That's it.
And obviously you got to use the crown emoji.
That's a given. That is absolutely a given. All right. How'd you feel being back after a few weeks off? Are you refreshed?
I felt a little rusty at the beginning. I was searching for words, didn't remember qualifier. I got to get back in the rhythm of it. So I think it was good though. I like that we had all meaty questions because it's been, a few weeks and we got those large questions built up. So it's good to get those going.
Yes, it is. All right. Well, best of luck. Who you got winning on Sunday, the Celtics or the Sixers?
Oh man. It'd be pretty funny if the Sixers won. I'll be rooting for the Sixers just for the chaos.
Good.
And just so I can hear Sim cry about it first. He literally this morning's podcast, he used the word eulogy. He's like, I was ready to come on here and, make this episode a eulogy. And it's like, dude, what the fuck?
Dude, he was saying, like, they were having an existential crisis about Tatum having a bad half.
Right.
Dude. They were like, oh, he might not be the guy, Come on. Let's just take it down a notch. But whatever, that's what makes this fun. That's what makes it fun.
You and I were laughing at how much they shit on Marcus Smart, and we're both like, I don't know, he's a pretty good player. Like, you guys really want to blame him for everything, but I think he led the team in scoring the other night, and he was pretty good.
Two players that they have, I'm putting this on Russillo and on Simmons. Two players that they have conditioned me to think about, and I have to break the condition every time. I'm supposed to believe Evan Mobley is the next Kevin Garnett. And I watch Evan Mobley play, and I'm like, I'm not there. I'm like, let's slow this down. Like, why do we have to get so far ahead? Let's just slow this down. Let's let it happen. Don't get me thinking that this guy is something that he's not yet, and he might never be. And then the other one is Marcus Smart. I'm supposed to think that Marcus Smart is this terror, this menace to the success of the Celtics. And then I watch him play, especially in that most recent game, especially in the first half. I'm like, dude, if they didn't have this guy right now, they'd be cooked. This guy is keeping the game.
They make it seem like he can barely walk on 2 feet and dribble a basketball.
Yeah. I know.
Like, he just goes out there and fires off terrible shots and throws it into the stands. And it's like, I don't know, he's 22 points, 6 assists or whatever, 3 steals. He's got 2 charges every game. I feel like he's pretty good.
Yeah, and every team needs its scapegoat. Every team's got the scapegoat. It's everybody's fault.
Drayden. Oh, my bad.
I mean, we all
A
have.
lot has
We all
changed
do.
since Card Ladder began.
all right.
We started with 500 cards
That's gonna
in
do
our
it for this week's
database,
show.
and
See you guys
now
next
we
week.
have over 3 million
See ya.
cards and over 30 million sales.
For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up.
With Card Ladder's sales history feature, we have virtually every card in our system. If the card you are looking for ever sold on one of these platforms, you can find it using Card Ladder's sales history. And you can add a card to your collection with just one click.
My time, none of you people can tell me to stop.
Plus, every card, no matter the last time it sold, has an estimated value that we calculated using our state-of-the-art player indexes. Unlike other apps, when you see Card Ladder's verified checkmark, that means a researcher personally vetted each and every sale.
We know what it takes to be reaching the top.
We know what you want, because Card Ladder was created by collectors for collectors.
Know what it takes to be reaching the top.
Join the innovators, not the imitators. Card Ladder 2.0, constantly innovating. Try it for free. See why Card Ladder is the industry leader in sports card data.
We know what it takes to be reaching the top.
Card Ladder 2.0.